First and foremost, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2021. We know 2020 was rough, but Happy New Year to you. Now I have my review of the KEF Q150s. This is a pair of bookshelf speakers from KEF, and I'm going to talk about them in this video. I've listened to music, I've watched movies, and just generally enjoyed these speakers. So I want to talk about my impressions, not only from a design standpoint, but from a sound quality standpoint. And we're going to do that just after the jump. The Q150 is the smallest bookshelf speaker in the Q series from KEF. It is a two-way design with the UniQ driver array. It has a 1-inch vented aluminum dome tweeter and a 5 1/4-inch aluminum woofer. It has a frequency response from 51 Hz to 28,000 Hz, a sensitivity of 86 dB, and a nominal impedance of 8 ohms. Each speaker is 11.9 inches tall, 7 inches wide, and 10.9 inches deep, and it weighs 12.3 pounds. Before we get too far in this video, if you are new to the Home Theater Hobbyist channel, welcome. On this channel, you will find product reviews, unboxings. There's a home theater basic series if you want to find out some basics about home theater, and basically just general talk about home theater. So why don't you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime we upload new content. Also, don't forget to like the videos, and if you want to find out more information or purchase a product, use those links in the description below. It does help support the channel. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, welcome. It's good to see you, at least in this format, in 2021. Hopefully it will be better than 2020. But this video is going to show a few changes that I'm making for 2021 and going forward to my review process. I'm expanding out the ranking process from a 1 to 5, that was 2020 and behind us, and going forward it will be a 1 to 10. And I think that's going to add a bit more clarity, and I'm also going to be changing up the formatting just a little bit. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section, and also just like the video. I would appreciate it. So let's go ahead and let's get to the review. Now let's move on and talk about the design. As you can see, I have these in the white surface finish, and this surface finish covers the entire speaker, the top, the sides, the bottom, the front, and the rear of the speaker. Now the surface finish itself actually has a little bit of texture to it that I didn't notice at first when I first looked at them, but once I saw it, I actually found it to be quite appealing. And honestly, the overall surface finish kind of reminds me of a boat or a lake house or something like that. It's kind of got that white look to it that you can find in a lot of those different theme designs, and so I actually like it quite a bit. But up front here, you can see it has the KEF logo, and it's actually kind of perched on top of the speaker, which I kind of like because it adds just a little bit more prominence to the logo, and I think it looks nice, simple, clean, and elegant. Up front here, you can see I have the magnetically attached grills attached to the speaker. Now the grills themselves actually cost extra. It's $20 per grill or $40 per set. So that's just an extra expense or something else that you need to keep in mind. But to pull it off, like I said before, it is magnetically attached, so it just pulls off relatively easy. And as you can see here, these are actually quite nice grills. They have a nice frame in here, and as you can see here in the center, they have the cutout for the UniQ driver down there. Now there are magnets on each one of the corners, so it will attach. One other thing I want to mention about this grill is there is an up and a down. The up actually has just a little bit of a chamfer right there, and while the bottom is flat, so you will know which way is up on the grill and which way is down. But enough about the grill. Now, one other thing I do need to mention from a design standpoint is these do come with little rubber feet. You come with a pack of 8, so you put 4 on each speaker, and it protects the surface finish of the speaker and the table on which it sits. Now I'm going to go ahead and rank these in the design category, and I give them an 8 out of 10. I think 3 words kind of describe this design: simple, modern, and refined. And first of all, it's simple. There's not a whole lot going on with this box. You don't have a whole lot of flashy designs. You just have a driver and a logo up top. But it's yet modern because you've got these ribs on the driver design that I think look really good and actually add a bit of pop and flair and design to just the driver itself. Plus you also have the gray here, and I think if you get the black, you'll get a black surface finish on that driver. But again, I think it looks nice and modern. But it's also refined, and the refinement I find in the actual texture of the surface, because again, you don't necessarily see it at first, but when you do see it, it looks nice, and you want to see just how the light kind of glints off of the surface. So I think KEF has done a good job, and I give them an 8 out of 10. Now let's talk features and controls. And the first major feature of these speakers is the UniQ driver array right here in the center. A lot of other bookshelf manufacturers go with a tweeter driver design, but KEF has decided to go a little bit different and put the tweeter right there in the center of the woofer cone, known as a coaxial design. And this actually reminds me of a lot of car speakers that I've seen in the past. Now, car manufacturers do it for compactness, but KEF is doing it mainly because they want to give you a single point of sound. And I'll talk more about that sound quality in the sound quality section. But moving on to the rear, as you can see, as I said, it has the same white surface finish, and this is a ported speaker. The port's here on top. Now this port does come with a port plug, and this allows you to make the bass a little bit cleaner if you are less than 8 inches from a wall. But KEF also makes this tunable because the center of the port actually does pull out, and you can mess around with the tuning of the bass response if you want to. So that's just a nice little feature. But below that is the single pair of binding posts that accepts all major speaker connections, including bare speaker wire, banana plugs, and spade connections. Now they don't have dual binding posts on this. If you want dual binding posts, you will have to step up to the R series from KEF. So let's rank the features and controls. I give them a 6.5 out of 10. The UniQ driver is definitely unique in the space, and KEF has pulled it off. They give you a tunable port situation, which is quite nice, and all the basic features and controls you need in a bookshelf speaker. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Now I'm going to play an audio sample just so you can hear how these sound, and then after that we'll talk sound quality. Hopefully you enjoyed those audio samples. Now let's talk sound quality. To test these speakers, I used both movies and music, and I used my Denon AVR-X 4400H as my sound processor and the Monoprice Monolith 7-channel amplifier as my amplification. Now that amplifier will output up to 200 watts per channel, which is plenty of power for these because I think these are rated from 10 to like 100 watts. So I didn't have any issues driving these. Moving on to sound quality, I give these a 7 out of 10. Overall, these have just a touch of a warm presentation to them, so if you like that kind of sound, definitely check these speakers out. Now, one of the concerns I had about these speakers is this single point source. Was the soundstage going to be wide? Was it going to be deep? How was it really going to sound? And I'm happy to say that the soundstage is actually pretty wide and it's actually deep. The depth is what really is one of the things that surprised me, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, as far as elements are concerned in the soundstage, you do get things in the left and right like you want them to be, and things are appropriately placed like you would expect. One of the test tracks that I use is called You Love Me by Karen Clark Shear. She is a gospel artist, and it's a track with her and her daughter. So you get 2 female vocals, and it's live, so you get the live performance. And one of the things I noticed with the Q150s when I compared it to my own Klipsch RP150Ms is that the Klipsch had the lead vocals right smack dab in the center. It was so good, in fact, that I actually thought my center channel was playing at one point, but it wasn't. Well, with the Q150s, it wasn't quite locked into the center the same as the Klipsch was. And I first of all found that a little bit interesting. It was just a touch off. But what I noticed was at one point in the song, you had the lead vocal singing and the drummer was playing. And the drummer was to the right slightly, and it even sounded like it was a bit behind the lead singer, which was very, very nice, because not only did you have, a nice almost centered vocal, but it was depth to the image, and that's what you want, because in reality at a live concert, the lead singer and the person playing the drums is not going to be at that one point. There's going to be some space in between them, and the Q150s did that very, very well in comparison to my RP150s, which actually kind of made everything kind of in the same plane and right there centered. So I like that. But within soundstage, there's also the height of the image that you have to be concerned with. And with the Q150s, they don't add a ton of height to the image. Again, I was comparing the Klipsch RP150Ms to these Q150s, and I was watching Jurassic Park, and it's the scene where the Brachiosaurus is there and is eating the trees, and the actors are talking down below, and so you've got the sound of the Brachiosaurus eating the trees, giving you some height to the image. Well, with the Klipsch RP150Ms, there was a bit more height to the image than with these KEF Q150s. So I don't think it does as well in the height department on the soundstage, but it does really well with the depth and also the width of the stage. Now let's talk highs, mids, and lows. And one of the first things I noticed was they are all nice and balanced. One is not more prominent than the other, which is a plus. I also noticed that there's a lot of detail coming from the Q150s, which I like. One of the tracks that I use for testing is called Kung Fu Piano by the Piano Guys. It's a classical track, and there's a portion of that song where they're playing the cello, and I can hear the detail in the notes quite well, and also even a little bit of the cabinet resonance from the cello, and I like that. But one of the downsides of that detail is it's not always the cleanest, clearest detail. There's some other speakers that I've listened to, and they have better, cleaner, clearer detail than the Q150s. Now let's move on and talk about the bass. And I was very impressed by the bass coming out of these little bookshelf speakers with the 5¼ inch driver. First and foremost, they play to the specifications published by KEF. They come into their own right around 40 or 50 hertz. But in my testing, I actually found that they play an audible 20 hertz tone at my main listening position. And I'm not talking that I had it cranked up at reference level. It was at like, minus 25 dB or something, maybe even minus 30 dB when I did the test really quickly. And it played an audible 20 hertz tone. Now, I still recommend a subwoofer because it's not like, great detail and all those things, but it is audible, which was impressive. And honestly, it kind of made me curious about the Q350, which has the 6½ inch driver. I wouldn't be surprised if, someone actually mentioned that they would get that particular set of speakers would give a 10-inch subwoofer a run for its money. But I digress. With these, I was watching, again, Jurassic Park, and it's the scene with the Brachiosaurus. He goes up on his 2 rear legs to eat a little bit more out of the tree, and then he comes down on his front, and he really just thunders the room, right? Well, with the 150s, I could actually feel the bass just a little bit from my main seating position, whereas with my Klipsch RP150s, I couldn't feel the bass as much. So that was quite impressive. So it's nice detail, and it also gives you a good bit of depth, which is very nice from a pair of bookshelf speakers. So overall, I give these a 7 out of 10 for sound quality because it has a nice even sound, whether it's playing low, mids, or highs, which is nice. It's got great detail, a nice wide sound stage, although it doesn't play with as much height. I wish there was a little bit more clarity in that detail. And honestly, I guess one thing I didn't mention was when listening to music, it sounded like a bit of a recording versus sounding like you were sitting there in the audience. So I wish it had a little bit more of a live sound to it. But otherwise, I think these do a great job, and I give them a 7 out of 10. The final category I want to talk about today is value, and I give these a 5 out of 10. They're $5.99 for the pair, and remember, these speaker grills cost extra, basically about 40 bucks. So for $640, you get everything that you see here. Now that's an okay deal. I mean, these do sound good, they look great, but it's an okay deal. Now, every now and then, like just a few weeks ago, they were $2.99 for the pair. And again, you have to pay for the speaker grills, but they were $2.99. Now, that is a great deal. In my mind, that pushes up to like a 6.5, maybe even a 7 for what you get, because I mean, they really do sound good and look good for that price. But we have to judge them on what's the normal price, which is $5.99. So I give it a 5 out of 10 for value. So let's wrap this up. The Q150s are a great speaker with an excellent design. I think that regardless of which color you pick, you're going to like the way they look because they have this simple yet modern design that is really, really appealing. The UniQ driver array actually does deliver in soundstage very, very impressively. You get nice depth and width to the image, although the height could be just a little bit better, but they do a great job for having a nice single point of sound. The bass from these speakers is incredible. I was super impressed by just how much bass they have. So I do recommend the Q150s, especially if you can catch them on sale. That would be an even better deal. But even at $5.99, they are a really good speaker. Don't get me wrong. They're a good speaker at $5.99. So again, I recommend them. Now, if you do want to purchase the KEF Q150s or anything else from KEF, use those links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We'll talk to you next time.